This NPC is being really rude right now. Like, I am trying to ride my bicycle. Why are you just walking in place into me? Like, your boyfriend can't even look at you because he's so embarrassed. Like, first you murder my Jolteon, then you act like this. Screw you, I'm gonna ride my bike into you. This is stupid. Hi, Nuzlocke Vlogs. It's a playing Pokemon Platinum. Yay. So, what's going on with me? Not a lot. It was an ordinary week for me. Just normal stuff going on in my life. I don't have much to comment on. Which is super interesting for the YouTube video where I talk about my life while doing a playthrough of Pokemon Platinum. I don't know. I'm back on writing Fate's deep dives. Like the problem with that was I wanted to reread the more than 100,000 words that I'd already written for Fate's deep dive before I went back to doing regular updates for it. So that took time. But that's done now, and I'm back to writing Fate's deep dive, done by the end of the year. And I'd rant about how I don't like Fire Emblem Fates, but I've got a whole blog where I do that. So, I don't know. I don't know. It's fine. Oh, actually, I forgot to mention last week that there was a movie I wanted to talk about because I rewatched it over Labor Day weekend. Because, like, when you don't have internet, you download a movie from Netflix. That's what you do. I rewatched Spider Man 3, which is a movie I was planning to rewatch for my movie podcast where I reviewed superhero movies, but then that got unexpectedly canceled, and that's a whole deal that maybe someday I'll talk about if someone asks me. By the way, Spider Man 3, uh, the third, God, what's his name? He did Ash and the Evil Dead. That director. He's a good director that I like. The third Sam Raimi, the third Sam Raimi Spider-Man. It is a Sam Raimi Spider-Man, and it has a lot of the heart and charm of those movies, but also it's I can understand why this one wasn't that well received. It has some faults. It's a movie where characters act really stupid and like jerks to each other a lot of the time. So at the end of the last one, at the end of the second Spider-Man movie, it's like, ooh, Harry wants revenge. He's gonna kill Spider-Man to avenge his father. And then they have to walk it back. So at the start of Spider-Man 3, Harry Osborn tries to kill Peter, and then Spider-Man clotheslines him and he hits his head and gets amnesia because, they can't just have him trying to kill Peter throughout the whole movie. So now he forgets, so he's chill for a while. But as soon as he gets his memory back, he'll go back to being a dick, but he doesn't have his memory for the next 20 minutes. Man, that is a good screenwriting solution. No complaints here. I that's good. And I do love Harry's plan is so fucking good in that movie. Like, in the second one, he's trying to murder Spider Man. At the start of the third one, Harry's trying to kill Spider Man. And then, once he gets his memory back, he goes with his evil plan to break up Spider Man and his girlfriend and then date Spider Man's girlfriend so he can rub it in Peter's face that he's dating his girlfriend. And it isn't like him and Mary Jane get together because Peter's acting like a dick throughout the whole movie and they have relationship issues. It's he breaks into Mary Jane's apartment in the middle of the night and says, "Break up with Peter or I will murder him." And hey, Peter could take you, Harry. Like, Mary Jane should know he could take you. Like, he doesn't even threaten Mary Jane. He threatens Spider-Man. And so Mary Jane's just like, oh, I have to break up with you now. And like, I don't think Harry is spying on her 24/7. So like, she could have just said, Peter, Harry is threatening me. I'm scared. You need to beat him up. Like, when they have that meeting on the bridge in the park, why doesn't she just whisper, "Hey, don't react until I tell you because Harry is watching me. Harry broke into my apartment and threatened me, and now you need to act like I just broke up with you and get mad and cry, and then I'm gonna run away crying." Mary Jane acts like an idiot in that. Oh, and it feels like I gotta assume that movie went through so many rewrites. Like it feels like a movie that was heavily rewritten because it had problems and the rewrites didn't fix them. Because, to be fair, it would have also worked as a movie based on what we get built up if Mary Jane dumped Peter because he was being a dick. Because Peter's kind of a dick in that movie with that, like, upside down kiss with Gwen Stacy. Like, fuck you, Peter. Like, why couldn't you just say, "Oh no, I'm sorry, random lady. I'm not going to make out with you just because people are chanting"? Like, seriously, like, come on, that little kid, he just said, "Spider-Man, no!" Gotta do what the little kid has. That's such a weird thing. Like, she's in a relationship too. Uh, Also, was Gwen ever a model in the comics? I thought that was always Mary Jane's thing. I don't know. It feels weird that they added that while also making her normal size. I don't know. Anyway, uh, the point is, like, you could have had Peter and Mary Jane broken up because of their relationship issues, which are really serious, and maybe they just shouldn't be together because these relationships issues sure seem to pop up. There's a lag on my keyboard, is why I can't go through doorways. These relationship issues sure do seem to pop up in every single Spider-Man, and it's always the same issues. Like, you could have just had them broken up over that, but no, you had to have it's because Carrie's threatening Mary Jane and she's dumb. And like that is just dumb. And also Venom is does not receive enough screen time. I didn't hate Topher Grace as Venom as much as I remember hating him. But it is kind of ridiculous. I bet this is another part that was rewritten for some part. The fact that Spider-Man Peter Parker gets him fired for, committing journalistic malpractice. Like, even if Peter didn't point it out, someone would have noticed. Like, what the fuck was Eddie's plan there? Like, haha, I'm gonna make up a story about Spider-Man robbing the bank. What bank? Yes. When did he rob it? Sure. Don't ask any of the real banks if they were robbed. Like, it's not. Like, it's framed as Peter being kind of a bit of a dick because he's possessed by the Venom symbiote, but, like, that would have come out anyway. But no, it's so good that he goes to a church and says, "Dear God, please murder Peter Parker." And then he just happens to run into Peter Parker and get infected by Venom. That is excellent. Top tier writing in that movie. But Sandman is excellent, and every scene featuring Sandman is gold in that movie, which kind of saves it. Sandman's really good in that movie. Like, there's this video, it keeps getting recommended. I haven't watched it yet. I forget who it's by, like, perfect movies, moments in bad films that just shows, like, a shot of, like, Sandman reaching out for his daughter's locket. That's such a good scene. Sandman is a good villain in that movie. I have a few notes, though. First off, what happens to him at the end of the movie? I always thought he kind of died at the end of the movie because he just fades away into the wind. But no, he's still alive. He's just like, "Hey, Spider-Man, I know I was trying to murder you 5 minutes ago." Like, I very brutally. It's honestly, that is such a brutal scene where Venom is strangling Spider-Man as Sandman is just hammering his ribs, fucking beating him to death. And then after Venom gets blown up, he's like, "Whoa, I guess this is a bit serious. Maybe Spider-Man's in a good mood." So sorry about Uncle Ben. It was a bit of an accident. I'm gonna go now. Bye. Like, what does he do now? He just flies away. I assume he's going to move to, like, New Jersey and start robbing banks there. Is what he's going to do. Gotta pay for his daughter's medical bills because the American healthcare system is an abomination. But the other thing about him is I just love that fucking science experiment. It's such a dumb, like, how it should have ended. I know that's still a channel. I have not watched them in like 10 years. I liked them when they came out. They probably aren't as good as I remember, but I just remember their Spider-Man 3 one was really good. Like, Just so many good jokes in it. Like, should we turn on the multi? Should we? Oh no, there's something in the reactor. Should we check it? Nah, it's just probably bird. Hey, how about we fucking check it? Because this is a multi-million-dollar experiment. Don't want it to fucking go wrong, idiots. And do they not have cameras or sensors? Like, I mean, they have sensors because they can tell that the weight has changed, but not that it is changed by 200 plus pounds. Sandman's a big guy. Like, ooh, it's a 200-pound ostrich that fell into a reactor. That's fine. And like, there's no guardrails. There's nothing. It's just like anyone could wander into that pit. Well, they have to go over the fence, I guess. But like, what about people at the experiment site? Like working on stuff. Like, just a fucking janitor is gonna fall into that pit and break his neck. These scientists suck. Uh, but yes, Sandman is great. The stuff with his daughter is great. It's a shame that he's kind of that he isn't, because of, I believe I've heard people say COVID, but I'm pretty sure it was because of scheduling conflicts. Thomas Hayden Church couldn't be in No Way Home, which, you know, it kind of sucks. So he's just like a Sandman who gives his voice. And also, Rhys Ifans couldn't, but he was already a CG character, so it isn't as bad. Also, Sandman's kind of dumb in that movie, too, where he wants the opposite of what the other villains want. Like, they're like, we must not let Spider-Man send us back to our home dimensions. I forgot that she doesn't give Surf yet. Because Will Daff will go home. And he's like, yeah, but I really want to go home to see my daughter. So I'm going to work with you? I guess. Yeah, to be fair, Sandman is a bit of a dumb guy who is impulsive sometimes. Like, I don't know if trying to murder Spider-Man would be the smart thing that I would do in that situation. I would probably run away because he almost murdered you, Flint. Like, go to any other town. Yeah. But honestly, I do like No Way Home. I think it's flawed, but I do think No Way Home is a good Spider-Man movie. The stuff with uh, Aunt May's death is very sad. All the interactions between the Spider-Men are excellent. Why do I mash B? I don't know. All the interactions with the Spider-Man are excellent, and with the returning Spider-Man, they don't just be throwaway cameos, because that's what a lot of, like, these, multiverse, like, we're bringing back old characters. It's like a 2-minute cameo where they don't do anything interesting, is what a lot of times they do. And we're gonna see a lot more of that in the next couple Avengers movies, I bet. But no, like, both of the old Spider-Man get a good character moment. Andrew Garfield Spider-Man gets to make up for his biggest failure in this really, really nice moment. And yes, it was telegraphed from the trailers, but I don't mind because, yeah, that's what needed to happen for the story. Well, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man gets a nice moment where he passes on what he's learned about revenge. He stops Tom Holland Spider-Man from making the mistakes he made in Spider-Man 3. He acts like a good mentor. Like, that was a good movie overall. It was a flawed movie, but I like Spider-Man 3. I like both of the Spider-Man 3s. There's not any Spider-Man that I don't like. I even kind of like Amazing Spider-Man a little bit. Not a lot. I think it's the worst one. Amazing Spider-Man 2. I misspoke. I think Amazing Spider-Man 1 is overhated. It's a very flawed movie, but has some good stuff going. But, yeah, Amazing Spider-Man 2 is very flawed. But it's not an awful film by any means. Okay, you're dead right. Yes, you're dead right. And I've just spent 15 fucking minutes ranting about Spider-Man. Call me J. Jonah Jameson. Oh, also, you know what's good in Spider-Man 3? You know what's good in Spider-Man 3? Like I talked about, this, just the beating down of Spider-Man is, that was a good scene. It is horrifying just watching Spider-Man get brutalized, and then Harry heroically showing up to save the day. And there's some really, really shot action in that. Like, where they're flying down the building, and, like, Peter grabs onto Harry and he throws him forward, or when they're like back to back fighting. Although Sandman just pretty much very quickly just stops fighting, and it instead becomes them versus Venom, and Harry has a kind of cheesy death, but it's sad and it's nice. Um, yeah, overall, it's all right movie. I don't think it's as bad and as hateable as people think when it came out. I think honestly, people tend to be very over emotional and impulsive about sequels in nerdy franchises and overplay how bad some of them are and put early ones on a pedestal. And that's not always wrong because I do think Spider Man 3, worst of that trilogy, maybe either second or third worst Spider Man movie. Either it, I don't know if it or Far From Home is. Actually, I think I go back and forth on which of those is better. Amazing is also kind of down there. But, it's not an unwatchable film. It has some good stuff going. Like I saw this like red thread. There is there's like there is not a I cannot think of a single good thing about Wonder Woman 1984, and that's a very flawed film. I do, but like seriously, not anything good about it. Like um I thought Pedro Pascal was good in that. He was fun, just getting him be this over the top eccentric 80s businessman, and some of the action was decent, and the acting overall was pretty good. Like nothing good. Like I saw this thing like Thor. Someone say that Thor: Love and Thunder is the worst superhero movie ever made. I'm like, you have not seen the worst superhero movies. You have not watched the Captain America movie with Salinger that I had to review for that fucking podcast all those years ago. That you have not seen the depths of decay and terror that are the worst superhero movies. We have become spoiled on good superhero movies, that everyone that is bad is now the worst ever, but you have forgotten. You have forgotten what it once was. Have you ever seen Superman 4, The Quest for Peace? You know not of the depths. This bit's dumb, but yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of rambling now, and no, I don't want a Magikarp. I want a Goldeen. I'm not going to use a Goldeen, mind you, but I want to catch one because Goldeen that gets me another encounter. So emergencies. Hold on, fucking Celestic Town, Celestic Town, Bulbapedia, Pokemon, Goldeen, Good Rod, 45%. I cannot. I I I refuse to have another like Hippopotas situation, and gotta click on the game to have my keyboard inputs count, and I'll get all the surfing items between parts. Oh, just give me the Goldeen so I can respond to a comment. What's this comment? Let me look at a comment. Z Trek Exodius. Okay, that's a name. If I'm being real, I really don't like how Homestuck got more and more serious in the sense of realism the moment concepts like abuse and all were introduced. It blew it for me. I read it for the cool and funny stuff, but the amount of realism just completely killed it for me and turned me away. Like Dave being abused to me was a good subversion of the older figure. Sorry, I have to pay attention to the arrows on the game, or the exclamation marks on the game. Hey! Not a good subversion of the older figure training younger figure through bad shit. Compson to me it was just dumb, since now the entire fandom hates Bro, despite himself sacrificing himself and doing so much for a hero. And that is a comment that is getting down to taste and what you like in a story. So there isn't really a right or wrong. I can't say you're right, that guy's right or wrong, because that is a very subjective comment. But I disagree. I like the jokey stuff at the what should I do? ZTE is one. Actually, I'll do Exodius. That's a cool. I like that. the sort of jokey stuff at the start of the comic becomes more serious as the comic goes on. That it gets played straight for once, and it's really interesting. I'm writing a video essay on Dave Strider now, which it's what's on my mind is it is interesting to have um the audience told things that are untrue by an unreliable narrator like Dave. Like that the comic very clearly shows Dirk is fucking awful to Dave. He throws him down a flight of stairs. He beats the shit out of him daily. Like Dave is terrified of him. He hates the puppets. There's no fucking food in this apartment. Like this is a bad, crappy childhood. But um, Dave is like, nah, it's cool. He's cool. He's awesome because Dave is an unreliable narrator. And I have so much I can say. I have a whole fucking video essay I can say about Dave Strider and his relationship with his brother and how it's a really well ran part of Homestuck. So yeah, I kind of disagree with the take that it ruins the comic by being more serious and realistic because I feel like that's very set up, and we it is set up early on that do not trust what these characters say. They're unreliable. Like John is like my dad is the worst. I hate him, and John's dad does nothing wrong. He's a good person. And Rose is like, my mom is playing mind games with me. She hates me. And Rose's mom is, I mean, she's an alcoholic, but she doesn't hate her daughter. That's ridiculous. Like, the characters are unreliable narrators, so you should uh, tr- take a closer look at what Dave says and whether or not it's true, whether his bro's actually cool. And there are some admirable things, admittedly, that uh, Beta Dirk does. Like, cutting the meter in half is a cool fucking scene, and it's a cool, good thing for him to do. His duels with Jack Noir are good. Like, I can understand that if you like that character, that, yeah, kind of, it is annoying that he becomes a bastard. But oh, I got some news about Dirk. He will become a much bigger, more contentious asshole much later on. Well, that's a different Dirk, but it's technically the same Dirk because of blah 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 ultimate self. Um, I don't know. I don't know. This really does get into another problem with Homestuck is that the comic changes so heavily on multiple occasions. It is not the same story at the start that it is as the beginning. Because, like, I'm rereading Homestuck, so I can do another video essay on it again. And, like, remember the fucking inventory puzzles? That is that is so much of early Homestuck and is completely dropped after a certain point. Like, and the like intricacies of Suburb, like how this game works with all the different upgrades for it, that gets pretty much instantly dropped and never comes back again. Like, I don't know, the comic changes heavily, and that does turn people off from it. And I can't really say that's a good thing about the comic that changes so much, or that it's a bad thing. It's just a matter of taste. There's a certain part of like I think the best part of Homestuck is 5-2. I think that is the peak of the comic, and it occasionally reaches that heights again. But that's stylistically so different than what it was at the start of the comic. Like I've talked to people, responders to my video essay, who hate the introduction of the trolls because the trolls mark such a massive shift for the comic, and I don't agree with that. I think well, actually, I don't like a lot of the trolls, but I think some of them are among the comic's best written characters. But I can't really say you're wrong to think that it's worse when the trolls are introduced because, yeah, it is a big change in the comic. The comic is suddenly something very different. And whether or not you like that, well, who's to say? I don't know. And should I get my Fuego Ironworks encounter? I'm gonna get my Fuego Ironworks encounter so I can. And I'm hoping I've already got two steel types, but I kind of want a Magnezone. And I mean, it's fine because I've got a sand team. I'm using a Hippopotas. Let me find another commenter to do the name of once I get my Or I've never done a Magmar. It would be interesting to try out a Magmar because I know you can catch a Magmar here. Okay, yeah. Let's just get one more encounter and then we'll end the episode and we'll go through the Ironworks next part. And then I'll probably do the water routes and then on to Orberg. Or is it Orberg or is it. No, Canalave. That's. Orberg is the sun one. Okay. Why are there so many fucking tentacool? Like, this is 10 feet from a public road. There are children who play here, and there are just endless armies of poisonous jellyfish. This is a big safety. Yes, Magnemite. Yes, we are gonna be so fucking steel. We are gonna be the steel boys. Our will is iron. You can't break us. We're not gonna lose any more Pokemon because we're fucking Iron Man. We're unbreakable. We are the steel team. We're gonna kick. See that is a sign that the first ball catches. And was my comment on the 999 video? Chaotic says, yeah, the line is very important later on, but I do agree the game is kind of boring by being ported to a non-DS. I talked about this in the video. It's basically, I can't talk about it fully, but the climax, there's a scene in 999 that's completely destroyed in the ports to PSP, in the ports to PC and PS4. I'm trying to read the name and talk and type at the same time with. Basically, there's a scene where it's showing two things, like the climax of the game. It splits the focus, and you see two things happening at once. And they showed one on the DS's top screen and one on the bottom screen, and then couldn't really do that on the port, so they just decided, actually, we're not going to show 50% of this very important scene because we can't show it. And like, the game's a lot worse now. It is fundamentally worse. And yes, the voice acting's good, and the art looks really nice and clean, and you remove that annoying thing I talked about in the video, but it needed to be on two screens because of that one specific scene where it splits to showing two things simultaneously, and then it just cuts one out. And I'm not saying exactly what that game did, but it's close enough. Anyway, what's over here? I forget what's over here. I got a lot of items to go get. What is this? Oh, right, this is the back of the flower fields. And I'm Song of Music, Hills Alive, Does da da see the dough is how that song goes. I'm gonna